Good morning. Ted Bush, Wichita Local 135, Wichita Firefighters President. I'm here this morning to speak for Wichita firefighters. As you know, we are currently in contract talks that will affect over 400 of our members here in Wichita, as well as their families. For many years, compensation for Wichita firefighters has remained stagnant. In the past, this difference was small enough to be tolerated by firefighters. However, that difference has grown throughout the years to a roughly 30% difference. We have fallen behind regional and state averages, and this is felt sharply by firefighters and their families, especially now, and I'm sure I don't need to remind anybody of the cost of living for all of us. They increased dramatically in the recent years. Since May, we've held several contract negotiation sessions with the city administration. This year, that process is more important than ever. We all keenly understand that not only do we need to make sure these men and women are fairly compensated, but we must also continue to have the ability to recruit and retain new firefighters. Wichita recently hired 18 people for a September recruit class to fill positions. These 18 new recruits were hired out of a pool of only 19. 30 years ago, I know a long time ago, when I was hired out of a pool of around 400. Comparable jobs in the private sector are often financially more attractive when compared to career firefighter positions. And this has always been a challenge and will continue to be. However, we have found ourselves in a situation where other fire departments regionally and even in the state are also more financially attractive than even ours. Staying competitive is critical if we are to recruit, retain new firefighters. It is also an important part of building morale for Wichita already dedicated firefighters. Our fire department is also an important part of infrastructure, not only locally, but nationally, that must be supported with appropriate investments in equipment, training, fire stations, administration, and perhaps most importantly, a competitive edge that attracts people to fill those roles. According to the Leverum study, a recent taxpayer-funded staffing study done for the city of Wichita, our department is currently short 185 firefighters and 11 fire stations. We have to ask ourselves, we have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, how did we get here? How did we get to a point where we're 185 firefighters short and 11 fire stations short? How do we fall so far behind in regional standards and competitive compensation for our firefighters? Simply put, we've built a fire department around a budget instead of building a budget around a well-staffed, efficient, and safe fire department. The difference between the adopted fire budget of last year and the proposed fire budget of this year, according to the most recent information that you can find online, the city has cut this budget by $224,662. We understand that many budget items are represented in a capital improvement plan, but these plans do not always materialize. As an example, in the CIP plan for 2021, $34 million was allocated to build 3 new fire stations. As of today, not one shovel of dirt has been moved on these projects. These strategies work on paper, but in reality, our department is in a critical state right now, today. Our fire department is an important part of the infrastructure, not only locally, but nationally, and must be supported with the appropriate investments. Perhaps and most importantly, we have to attract people to these type of job. In closing, I want to thank each of you, the council and Mayor Whipple, for your continued support. It's been well received and appreciated by over 400 members of Wichita Local 135. It is refreshing and it's encouraging. This year, we can and we must do better. Together, we can solve these issues facing not just us, but all of Wichita. This is the time, right here, right now, today. I hope you will consider what I've said today in reviewing and voting on Wichita's upcoming budget, and I'll stand for any questions.
Ted, just one question. What fire department in the entire state of Kansas is compensating their folks the best?
Yeah, Kansas City, Kansas. For instance, just to give an example, a 5-year firefighter in Kansas City, Kansas, or let me retract, 5-year Wichita firefighter makes right around $53,000 a year. A 5-year firefighter in Kansas City, Kansas makes a little over $80,000. And that's pretty common. We are way behind. And this didn't happen yesterday. That's not what I'm saying, but it has happened through the years, and this is why we find ourselves in this big of a gap. And it's a concern, and we're losing people every day.
Thank you. There's